we take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. The presidency yesterday recognized the rights of former President Goodluck Jonathan to contest the 2027 presidential election, but noted that his tenure, apart from lacking any clear economic agenda, engaged in frivolous spending, ran the economy aground, and put the country in dire straits. The presidency made the disclosure while reacting for the first time to comments by former Minister of Information, Professor Jerry Ghana, that Jonathan would contest the 2027 presidential poll under the platform of People's Democratic Party, PDP. In a release by presidential spokesperson Bayo Ononuga, the presidency emphasized that Jonathan was welcome to square up to President Bola Tinubu at the 2027 presidential election. It, however, advised Jonathan to be wary of PDP sugar-coated cheerleaders like Ghana, who only wanted to lure him into the race to satisfy their personal, religious, ethnic, and political interests. Faulting Jonathan's ambition, the presidency added that the Tinubu presidency in the last 28 months had been busy correcting the past misdeeds of the Jonathan government by resetting the economy, removing the ruinous fuel subsidy, and abolishing multiple exchange rates, which paved the way for arbitrage to flourish. In other news, Justice Emmanuel Sublim of a National Industrial Court in Abuja yesterday temporarily restrained the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, Pengasan, from embarking on its planned industrial action against Dangote Petroleum Refinery and Petrochemicals Free Trade Zone area. This happened even as the strike action embarked upon by Pengasan yesterday grounded business activities in key public oil and gas offices, including the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, and the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority in Abuja. But despite the court order, Pengasan said that it will go on with the nationwide strike embarked upon to protest alleged anti-labor practices, stressing that it had not received any court papers urging it to halt the industrial action. The strike followed a directive at the weekend by the union's National Executive Council, NEC, to its members. Minister of Labour and Employment, Mohammed Megeri Dingyadi, had appealed to the union to reconsider its industrial action in the interests of peace. Moving on, President Bola Tinubu's search for a new chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, may be near an end following Tinubu's alleged strong consideration of Kogi State-born Professor Joash Ojo Amupiton, SAN. A highly placed presidency source last night confirmed the development when asked if the news during the rounds about the nomination of a replacement for the outgoing chairman of the commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, was true. But a close friend of Amupiton had also confirmed the news and said while he was not sure the nomination had been announced, he could confirm he was being strongly considered. Replacing Yakubu had become necessary as his tenure began to wind down. He was appointed in 2015 by the late President Muhammadu Buhari and had almost served out his 2 terms of 10 years. With his nomination, Amupiton would be in charge of the Anambra State governorship election scheduled for November 6, Federal Capital Territory Area Council elections scheduled to hold on February 21, 2026, Ekiti State governorship election, as well as Osun governorship election holding in 2026 and the 2027 general election. Now on to very sad news. An armed robbery incident in the Kantakwe district of the Federal Capital City has claimed the life of Arise News anchor, correspondent and producer Somtochukwu Maduagwu. The incident at the unique apartment Abuja developed by Amazing Grace Real Estate Ventures reportedly took place around 3 a.m. on Monday. Residents say the robbers, numbering more than 15, attacked the 16 apartments in the compound. The security personnel at the apartment building say they alerted the police but got no response. Somi and an injured security guard were rushed to the Maitama District Hospital where they died. Relatives say they died because they did not get needed attention promptly as hospital staff refused treatment until their identification documents were produced. In a statement, the management of Arise News commiserated with Somi's family and demanded for the thorough investigation, apprehension, and prosecution of the culprits. Before her broadcasting career, 29-year-old Somi Maduagwu a lawyer was a face in the pageant industry. Arise correspondent Ferdinand Duroha reports.
Hello to our viewers in the US and around the world. I am Somi Maduagwu, coming to you from Nigeria's capital, Abuja.
Delectable, intelligent and bold are adjectives which hardly qualifies Somtochukwu Christel Maduagwu's persona. The 29-year-old barrister first graced Arise News screen as a guest when she participated and won the Miss Tourism Nigeria pageant. Somi went on to represent Nigeria at the Miss Tourism World pageant in Guangzhou, China in 2023. In September 2024, she joined the Arise News team, where she has made her voice count as a news anchor, news producer, and a reporter.
Trump announced on Saturday that India and Pakistan have agreed to a full and immediate ceasefire.
Through a blend of her legal dexterity and her reportorial vigor, Somi advocated for out-of-school children and campaigned energetically against sexual and gender-based violence. One of her most recent coverages was the submission of memorandum for reserved seats for women's bill, held on the 21st of September.
I will say the event did not really touch on the hindrances, but just from my study of, the lack of women in Nigerian politics and leadership in general.
There, Somi, alongside millions of other Nigerian women, advocated for a stronger representation for Nigerian women at the National Assembly. Somi's voice is now silent, but her spirit, passion and legacy will endure as part of our collective memory.
Properly educated and that there are less children out of school in Nigeria. From the presidential villa, Somi Maduagwu, Arise News.
Rest in peace, Somtochukwu Somi Maduagwu. It's a sad morning today, Rufai, alongside, of course, the other stories that were taken this morning from the presidency responding to Jonathan's supposed ambition to become president or run for president in 2027, allegedly, or speculated. And then, of course, the updates on Pengasin versus Dangote refinery with the industrial court ruling, and down to the security issue in Abuja, which has cost the life of such a bright star in the person of Somi Maduagwu. Your take on the stories this morning?
Okay, I mean, what can I say? I'm shattered, I'm broken. I was on the court playing tennis when the story broke, and somebody had called my attention to it, and it was a very, very shattering moment. But, when I started seeing the reportage, and I had a rough night, because this was a great woman that had a life ahead of her, but it was cut short. And somebody brought my attention also to a tweet that somebody had made a couple of months ago that made Nigeria not happen to us. But the sad reality is that Nigeria happened to Somi, like it happens to all of us. And that's why we speak against the injustices here today. We have seen messages being sent to condole with us by those in authority, and we appreciate their messages. But our charge for them today is that, can they just work hard at making what happened to Somi not happen to any other person? Because that's the greatest pain in this country. The police was called upon, nowhere to be found. They got to the hospital after it's been repeated many times. And when you see a gunshot wound, treat them first. But the hospital talks about identity. And these hospitals will say they have doctors that signed up to the Hippocratic Oath. And then very avoidable death. Somi came back to Nigeria because she believed in this country. This country that will celebrate our 65th independence a couple of days from now. She could have stayed back in the UK. She had a British passport and a Nigerian passport. Some will say if the roles were switched, probably if she was abroad, she will have a medical care that can respond to her. Somi is all of us. Today, we are all Somi. Because what happened to Somi could have happened to any of us. It's sad that Nigeria has happened to us again. But if there's anything we'll have to do, is to ensure that all the things Somi fought for when she was alive, we fight for those things to carry on a legacy. Somi didn't want much. She just wanted a good life for everybody out there, young girls and people in general. And you see, she was somebody that loved life. But because of our leaders and our system we've built, life is constantly taken away. We live in a country where life does not matter. I'm not surprised that people like Mr. Bayo Onanuga have started attacking a Goodluck Jonathan that has not even openly come out to declare that he will run. Because what has been Mr. Bayo Onanuga's job all this while in this government? It's been an attack personnel. Just attack people. The same Mr. Bayo Onanuga that I went through his Twitter page that has not issued a single statement about the killing in Kwara. Let me tell you about what happened in Kwara. There was a big protest yesterday that was not covered by mainstream media. It was covered by BBC Yoruba. In Okeode, in Kwara, bandits had ravaged the town. People were taking buses to flee the town because of the activities. I saw a video, Ayo, of a woman crying beside the dead body of her husband and her husband's brother that the bandits killed. After the mini protest, the villagers blocked the road, and after protesting, they were not still sure of anything that was going to happen to them. They started getting into buses and fleeing. The governor talks about how scared he is for people and around there, how helpless he feels. Mr. Bayo Onanuga has not issued one statement. Correct me if I'm wrong. I've not seen it, at least. Maybe I might be wrong. I admit I might be wrong. He's not made it front burner. For them, it's about politics of Jonathan that has not even spoken. And then he goes to berate Jonathan. The facts are there. If you ask an average night, will your life not better under Jonathan than what the APC, the lies they sold to you that they have not achieved? You say, oh, he got in there with 66 billion in the foreign reserves. He got to 36 billion. What was inflation under Jonathan compared to the rigmarole of inflation we had here? What was the economic prospects? It's in the same Jonathan days we had 9%. You complain, yes, there was corruption. Oh, you mentioned, oh, Diezania and all of that. You act like there's no corruption in this government. Till today, they've not told us what happened to Better Edu. You act like we don't even live in this country. The complaint there was Jonathan couldn't tackle insecurity. I've talked about Kwara. Is it not in this country they killed a lot of people in Jos? So the so-called sanctimonious message that Mr. Onanuga wrote. The question is, how are they better than even the Jonathan there that they condemned? So you see, that's why Nigerian fail us. It's been a litany of woes, both the PDP that failed, the APC that failed. And in the midst of the failure, you know, the standards are now so low that they keep challenging themselves. Now me fail pass, now you fail pass. Because for him to compare APC that is a failure to another failure, so it's a graduation scale of who is failing. And that's why we have hospital system that can't save the life of Somi. We have police that can't react. And Somi was being killed. So this is the joke we have made a country. Happy birthday to Nigeria at 65. Let's continue.
All right. Nigeria at 65, important point tomorrow. But Dr. Bati, your take on this?
Well, first, I said today is a sad day for Arise News. One of our own lost her life. The report is that she was attacked by armed robbers. And the police are hereby enjoined to investigate. They may say it's armed robbery. We thought armed robbery had ended in this country. Could there be other stories behind the story that we have been told? And it's important to investigate. But whatever the investigation may bring about, is one of our colleagues who has fallen. And, you know, I always tell people around me that this job that we do is a very dangerous job. You don't know the pathways that it leads to. it can lead to the pathway of death. And so it's a very unfortunate thing that a young lady of 29 with a future ahead of her has fallen. Beauty queen, anchor on television, and now some people thought that it would be their task to snuff life out of her. Now, she was taken to the hospital along with others. Again, this is an issue about the law. There's a law in Nigeria that says anybody who is a victim of accident or armed robbery attack, gunshot wounds, should be treated. But, these persons who were involved, including our own Somi, were taken to the hospital. And the hospital refused to treat them. They were looking for identification. I think this is something that Nigeria needs to address. Persons who are in very desperate circumstances, it is the duty of doctors and nurses to stay faithful to the Hippocratic oath, which is to save life. They refuse to save lives. I hope that hospital will be properly identified and sanctions, where appropriate, will be applied to that particular hospital and the officials who were on duty on that day. Everything is in the hands of God, but perhaps maybe lives could have been saved if the medical professionals did not behave like donkeys. Well, this is not to say that donkeys are donkeys, but look, it's very painful that no effort was even made because they were looking for identification. Well, we commiserate with the family, the Maduagwu family, and with all of us here who have lost one of our colleagues, because it takes a lot to wake up in the morning and come here and just talk. It takes a lot, to go on, to carry this microphone that we have. We are journalists. We have a duty. We are important in this society. When Nigeria happens to any one of us, it is a sad day for us. And it is indeed a sad day. Now, the second subject, very quickly. I was an official spokesperson for the Jonathan administration. It was my duty to run the communication process. And therefore, I find it very odd that a man that I respect so much, Mr. Bayo Ononuga, will come around for political reasons, for propaganda reasons, to say that the Jonathan administration was a useless administration. No. That is not just an insult to President Jonathan. I take it personally as the man whose duty it was to speak for that administration. There were other spokespersons who have promoted themselves beyond their level, but that was my primary assignment. And I say that I took an oath in 2011 to defend that administration, and I remain faithful to that oath. And I say with all seriousness that Mr. Bayo Ononuga is unfair to President Jonathan. He is wrong in the propaganda that he has put out. He may have issues with Professor Jerry Ghana, who is a chieftain of the party, who made a statement in Mina that President Jonathan is going to be the next presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party. He could have stayed there, and he will have been in order, disagreeing with Professor Jerry Ghana. But to say that there were no meaningful achievements under President Jonathan, no, he's wrong. He is absolutely wrong. And this is my correction. Now, President Jonathan is acclaimed all over the world, 10 years after his administration, as a Democrat, as a man who moved Nigeria forward. That's even the international community saying that. Since he left office in 2015, he has been invited everywhere, whether it is Malawi or it's Ghana or it's Gambia. So he has become an international citizen. That in itself should tell Mr. Ononuga and those around him in the villa that, look, this is a man who has achieved, who has remained relevant. There are other Nigerian leaders who will not be invited anywhere, who will not be accommodated in decent company. But President Jonathan, by conceding defeat in 2015, and by saying that the blood of every Nigerian is important, more than his own, has played a major part in history. But to the details, when we left government, in the Sovereign Wealth Fund, we left $1 billion. Exchange rate was between 170 to 198. The foreign reserve was about 42 billion. Nigeria's economy in 2014 was rebased, and Nigeria was recognized as one of the major emerging economies. In fact, we overtook South Africa in terms of the quality of our economy. Railway, it was President Jonathan who started the railway project. Rotimi Amechi, when he was minister, himself acknowledged it. Power, the revolution in the power sector, reform in the power sector, was the handiwork of President Goodluck Jonathan. Okay, the APC government that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, they came now, they brought, what's his name now? Muhammadu Buhari as president of Nigeria. Muhammadu Buhari destroyed everything, either in railway or power. The legacy of President Jonathan was, driven aground because they were more interested in, embarrassing President Jonathan. President Jonathan established 14 new federal universities, 166 Amajiri schools. The APC government, after 2015, could not even maintain the Amajiri schools. So the Naira, as I said, was also very stable. So Mr. Ononuga, with due respect, is playing politics. He's dispensing propaganda. He's not talking to the point. He's a man that I respect, but our government proved to be better than the APC government. And this is why now you have Nigerians, other political parties saying they want President Jonathan back. In Malawi, they have brought back Mutharika. Mutharika is 85 years old. The country could not find its direction. They said Mutharika should come back. In Ghana, they have brought back President John Mahama, to come and rescue the country. Nigerians are saying, bring back Jonathan. There's even a group that says, bring back our Jonathan. Now, that may be an issue for the APC government, but revisionism will not be accepted from Mr. Ononuga. President Goodluck Jonathan made his contribution. He left a very strong legacy, and we were part of that. And I'm not speaking from a partisan perspective. Look, look at the people that President Jonathan had. Additional moved from being Minister of Agriculture, that's Akinwumi Additional, to become president of AFDB. And he represented Nigeria well there. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala was one of the superstars in our government. And she's there at the WTO. Okay, I'm here with you at Arise News. Whatever you think of me.
Producer says we love you.
Well, no, whatever you people think of me. I'm not too sure you treat me well. But I'm here. So you have so many people, who are out of that government and are doing well, who are the stars in the APC government, from Buhari to President Tinubu. So let us be realistic. It's okay. People can make their choices. If President Jonathan wants to run, fine. Mr. Ononuga says he can run. But to put down another government to make your own government look good, no, I think that's cheap propaganda. That's not acceptable in my view. As for INEC chairman, to move quickly to another project. Well, Professor Yakubu Mahmoud has completed his term in office. He's going to move on. Now there will be another INEC chairman. If Professor Amunkiton, a law professor, is appointed, he will be the first Yoruba man to be INEC chairman. But it's not about ethnicity. It's not about putting a Yoruba man there. What is important is electoral reform. What is important is ensuring that democracy serves the purpose of the people. But we don't know for sure whether it's going to be Professor Amunkiton or another person. But definitely there is going to be transition in INEC. The biggest transition should be in terms of electoral reform and credible, free and fair election in 2027, whoever the candidate is. Our own interest is that we, the long-suffering, ordinary, poor people of Nigeria, we should be allowed to have a say in the matter, and our voice should be respected.
We the people. All right, Dr. Bati, we value you, and you know that. Ancestor. There's no
I don't know.
And the value that you bring, obviously.
You think I'm relevant.
We love you. The producer says so. But very sad morning for us here at Arise News, and we continue to celebrate. I choose to celebrate the life of Somtochukwu Maduagwu. It's often said that it's not how long, but how well a life has been lived. And this is what I choose to hold on to this morning, despite the fact that this precious, bright light has been snuffed out too early, cut off in her prime. And, you know, like you said, Rufai, that ex-post you referred to was made in August by Somto herself. And was a prayer. She said that I pray that Nigeria will not happen to myself or any of my loved ones. And a number of people, of course, have referred now to that post because of what has now happened to this beautiful young star that has been cut off in her prime. You know, the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, goes abroad on these foreign trips where he's the chief marketer of the nation. And what he brings forward at these trips or on these trips is the fact that the greatest assets that Nigeria has are its youth, the young people, the people of Nigeria. Yet, it is these young people like Somtochukwu, Somi, as she's fondly referred to, that have their lives cut off as a result of the inefficiencies of government. That is self-sabotage, where a nation kills its best resources or destroys the potential or prospects of its young people as a result of inefficiencies that we see. Now, it's been mentioned that Somi had a choice to live in the UK, where she, according to an interview she had done some years back, her mom is a British citizen. But she chose to come back to Nigeria. She was a fighter. There were many things, and she was a woman who believed in herself. There were many areas, and even in business, entrepreneurship, she studied law, was called to the Nigerian bar. She went into pageantry, excelled there, and she pursued her love for news and news anchoring by becoming a news anchor at Arise News Station. A brilliant life, and a woman who knew what she wanted out of life and was willing to work hard and go for it. But this life, which could have been longer and benefited Nigeria, was cut off because, number one, a lack of security, architecture, proper security, which we talk about at length here on the show. Armed robbers, 15 of them, went into the building in Kantakpe, which is said to be one of the affluent areas in Abuja. So imagine what happens in other areas that are not close to the seat of power. Went in there and went into all the apartments in that mini estate. And unfortunately, Somi was one of the people who was killed. Beyond that, they said they called for the police. We have a police system whereby you see them on the roads, and I'm sorry to mention this, but it's true, where they're not supposed to be doing what they're not supposed to do. And when it's time for action, they are missing in action. How often do we hear of institutions, whether it's the police or the fire service, when it's time for them to do what they were recruited to do and nowhere to be found? We have questions around, a big question mark there. And then the police failed her. Then we move on to the hospital, the healthcare system, Where in other climes, in a Senate climb, when taken or rushed there as an emergency case, should be given urgent care, emergency care. And what they were concerned about when you see a life that is ebbing out is where is her identification. This madness must stop. When are we going to get to a point in a nation where we can actually be proud of our institutions or proud of the kind of government that we have that actually serves its people rather than kill off its young? It is a very, very sad situation. And that's why we use the occasion, the sad occasion of Somi's death, to raise awareness again that things must change. We cannot continue to lose our young people, whether it be in Abuja, the capital of Nigeria, or in Lagos, or in Jos, or in Borno State. We cannot continue to say, rest in peace, or we offer our condolences time and time again without doing anything to stop this from happening. That is what I'm hoping the legacy of this sad incident will do. A wake-up call for the Nigerian institution, a wake-up call for the Nigerian government, that we cannot continue to offer condolences. I've seen governors and high-ranking members of society sending their condolences, and that's very good. I'm glad that they've seen this incident and they've shown empathy. But beyond showing empathy, what we're asking for and calling for this morning is action. Let this life not go in vain. Let the loss of her life not go in vain. And I speak not just for Somi, but for every Nigerian, whether young or old, whose life has been cut short as a result of inefficiencies and a bad government. Now, talking about bad government and inefficiencies, it is then rich for this administration, with a spokesperson, Mr. Bayo Onanuga, who was doing his job, quite frankly, to come out to speak and compare the Jonathan administration. He wasn't even comparing, he was degrading the Jonathan administration. And in the interest of truth and honesty, if you look at the Jonathan administration, yes, we had prosperity in certain areas, yes, infrastructural development in many areas, yes, the quality of life, if we're being honest, was better for the average Nigerian under that administration. But the reason why I have decided as a theme and a campaign slogan was very popular at the time was because a number of people had had enough. And it's the same in Nigeria. It's that story in Nigeria whereby when you think you've seen enough, it gets worse, unfortunately. A number of people were complaining about the state of security or insecurity following banditry, kidnapping, terrorism, some territorial hijacking in the north. And they thought, you know what, we need someone who will come in and fix the security situation. We don't want Jonathan anymore. Remember how there was corruption, and a number of people were talking about the corruption in the oil sector, the oil subsidy scams, and a number of these things that happened under the Jonathan administration, and Nigerians said they were tired, they wanted another person, they wanted another option in terms of a leader. Remember that a number of things, even with the power sector, which wasn't fixed under the administration, a number of people said they were tired, and so they opted for what they thought was a better opportunity for Nigerians. Unfortunately, it seemed like he was going from frying pan to the fire when you look at the Buhari administration. And the Tinubu administration, despite all it has said, has not been able to give that renewed hope that they promised Nigerians when they came on the campaign season. So for all of them, like Fai said, it's been failure. And that's why some people in some quarters are saying, when we talk about candidates, and it's the choice of Nigerians at the end of the day, maybe we need something fresh, something new, someone who can actually take Nigeria to the promised land. And that's why people are saying, let's have a robust opportunity to choose. And that ties in with the INEC chairman, the speculations around who will come in as the new INEC chairman. Give Nigerians an opportunity to actually make a choice that will be respected. If there's anything in terms of legacy for the Jonathan administration, that's the gift he gave to Nigerians, whereby he was able to concede without a flow of blood when he lost an election as an incumbent. And I'm hoping that this administration, under a true Democrat, as he often says, will give Nigerians the opportunity to choose in a free and fair election by making sure the institution and the process is transparent. That's what Nigerians are asking for. At the end of the day, go to the ballot and choose who you think is best to move this nation forward, as opposed to what we've seen in the last few years.